think that even social agencies must be fiscally accountable to the taxpayers. And I think that, on the other hand, if it's not run as a business, we tend to find that the services that are earmarked for the poor somehow are not delivered in the very best fashion. I think there are a lot of shortcomings of the free enterprise system, but I don't think that social agencies need dwell on the shortcomings, but need to pick up some of the strong parts of the free enterprise, and certainly we will run it as a business.
Well, you mentioned fiscal responsibility. I don't want you to get into an argument with your predecessors, but do you feel that they did not run it fiscally sound?
I think it was rather obvious because certainly my experience in the Fort Worth area dates back some 5 years with Neighborhood Action Incorporated, which was a delegate agency of the Community Action. So therefore, even though I did not work for the Community Action, I was very close to it and had some idea of the practices and some of the administration problems there. And even though I'm not here to say that the administration was all bad, I felt there were some places where the program could have been strengthened. One of the places, I think, was very definitely bringing personnel into the agency who had something to offer the poor, rather than simply bringing people into the agency on a welfare situation.
Well, there have always been charges that the CAA did not use its money wisely, that perhaps some people were making away with some of the goods and some of the money of CAA. Do you or have you already called for an audit of all the books?
We are having an audit of the books, but I personally do not feel that any of the administrators, any of the past administrators, did anything in the way that could be construed illegal with the funds. I do feel that many times administrators of social agencies aren't as immediately aware of the fact that they must account for each dollar that is spent, that somehow when you move into a social agency, you fail to realize that these monies really come directly from the taxpayer, and they're given for a particular reason, and those services, of course, must be implemented. If not, then you fall short on your balance sheet.
Well, it's no secret that the CAA has been flanked with problems during its brief history. Other than fiscal responsibility and perhaps some staff changes, what problem do you think you're going to be tackling first?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is become very much aware that if the community action is going to be a viable agency in this community, then it must be able to work with all other agencies, all other government bodies, and individuals within the community. And that would be one of the first tasks we want to do.
I think last year when the CAA appointed another director on a trial basis, you had also applied for the job. Do you know why you didn't get it?
At that time, we had conversations, and some of the conditions, which of course went along with my application, the board did not feel they could meet at that time.
Yeah, I understand you made conditions in order to accept the job. What were some of those conditions?
There was really one rather important one. It was decided that the then operational director, who later became the executive director, would remain aboard. That was one of the conditions which I did not feel I could function with.
I think when you left NAI a couple of years ago, you indicated to me that you probably wouldn't get involved with the poverty agency again. What brought you back?
It's a very interesting thing. After having spent 7 years in the poverty program, at the time of my resignation, I was so emotionally and administratively drained that I could never foresee the opportunity of ever coming back into the program and having anything to offer it. But it's a strange thing that I think happens to individuals. Once you move away from a traumatic situation, you somehow become recreated. And then I find now that not only do I have more to offer, but certainly my experiences in private business, I think, give me some fiscal maturity that perhaps I did not have previously, and certainly want to implement that kind of experience into the social agency.
Do you foresee any problems with the board at all?
I'm sure there will always be problems, and I think any administrator who wants to direct an agency such as the war on poverty without having board problems is rather naive. I think problems are really inherent in administering a war on poverty, because what we tend to do has never been done before in America's history, and that's to bring groups from such different walks of life, bring them around one conference table, and sit and work out problems. So inherent in the composition, I think, because of the different opinions and all. But I look forward to those kind of problems because as we move within the sphere of groups representing the city and the county, groups representing the poor, groups representing business, we begin to set forth the kind of communication that I don't think this community has ever had before.